Hey guys and gals, I hope you're all doing well and welcome to Spoke After Hours, Spoke's very own podcast. For all of you who are new here, Spoke After Hours is a podcast where we talk all things team. I'm Mitun, your host today, and today on the show we have a very special guest. He boasts 180,000 followers on TikTok with 6 million likes. Is a fourth-year mechanical engineering student at the University of Waterloo, who is an active member of the Formula Electric team and is an amateur gymnast. We welcome Tamer Zaheen. Glad to have you on the show, Tamer. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me. I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to sort of provide any value that I can. Yeah, and I'm happy to be here.
We love to hear that. So, just before we begin, is there anything you'd like to add on about yourself? Anything else you'd like to say?
Uh, I think you basically, said everything. I enjoy engineering. I enjoy working out and doing gymnastics in my free time. And I graduated in 2021. So this year, basically, yeah. That's
that must be really exciting.
Yeah.
So we're on the topic of mechanical engineering, I guess. Let's just start off. So why did you choose mechanical engineering? Like, what did you do it?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I was, growing up, especially in high school, I really enjoyed like math and physics, like especially calculus and physics. These are like my two favorite courses. And, I wanted to continue studying them because I really did enjoy learning them. And I was actually pretty good at them as well. And so engineering really fit that mold. So that's why I, wanted to get into engineering. But, in grade 11 and 12, I was really stuck between what kind of engineering, because it seems like there's so many. But I remember around that time was when I started like watching Iron Man and getting into Avengers and stuff like that. And so just honestly, like I was just motivated by Iron Man, and just seeing the stuff that he did made me like feel, move more towards mechanical engineering, because I just really enjoyed building things and making anything that moves really. So that's, what drew me towards mechanical engineering.
Okay, so like on the topic of that, a lot of kids like tend to go into mechanical engineering because of like this whole Tony Stark thing and like building cool inventions. So like, how much is mechanical engineering really like that? Do you actually get to build cool contraptions like that, or is it more like just general design and a bunch of math? Like, what's it actually like, I guess?
Yeah, so mechanical engineering is general. So obviously you can't build like something like the Iron Man exoskeleton, because obviously that requires mechanical, software, electrical, and a whole bunch of things. And so there's no like one engineering that will teach you everything for it. A lot of engineering programs try to like sort of combine multiple. For mechanical, you're just designing. You'll be like designing things, figuring out what material will be best to use, figuring out sort of things like that. Just basically designing tangible things and building it. That's mechanical. But like for something like the Iron Man suit will also require like electrical and software. So all that comes together. The closest thing I guess you could say to like getting to that vision is like mechatronics, because they do like a bit of everything, but like you're not like a master in any. So that's I guess we could say mechatronics is the closest towards that sort of Tony Stark Iron Man suit. Yeah.
So personally, I was under the impression like mechanical engineering is a bit more broad. So like, is it actually that broad, or like what do mechanical engineers actually do? Like after you've had like 4 years experience in the field, I guess. So like, what's it actually like with your co-op experiences and all that? Like, could you speak upon that?
Yeah. So in my sort of a lot of the jobs you can expect to get after like from mechanical engineering is like roles in like product design engineering or manufacturing engineering. So personally for me, what interests me is product design. And so like designing things like maybe like how your iPhone would look like, or how an iPad would look like, or designing something like maybe a computer mouse. So designing things like that. Personally, like for me, like designing products that are used by consumers is sort of what drew me to mechanical engineering. And so that's like, so I just focus on like design and not necessarily electronics or the software like those within it. So that's sort of what mechanical engineering is like. So that's one end. The other end could be like more of manufacturing. So that's sort of it's great to have a good design and everything, but also now you need to get it manufactured in place like China, for example. So like sometimes that like I did do like a manufacturing role at one of my previous internships, and I was basically in contact with like our manufacturers in China, trying to see how they could make it, trying to see sort of how they can make it efficiently and at relatively low cost. And so that's another aspect of mechanical engineering as well. So there you can either work in like I guess product design or in the manufacturing area.
So would you be using like CAD and stuff like that?
Yeah. So in the product design, you use CAD a lot. Yeah. So I mean, if anyone is interested in mechanical engineering, I feel like some of the best, and they're not in university yet, some of the best thing you could do is sort of start playing around with CAD. I'm sure there's like student versions and stuff like that where you can, I mean, you can torrent it. I'm not saying you should do that, but like I know people do that. So yeah, if you're
That's
interested in
fine.
mechanical engineering, CADing is a big part of it. So if you enjoy CADing, you're really enjoying mechanical engineering.
All right. So like also, well, staying on the topic with CAD, like how much of CAD is actually just drawing or designing stuff, or like how much of it is actually like math and physics based? Like, what's the balance between the two, or is there some sort of balance?
Yeah. So okay. So CAD is so there is slight. Okay. So in general, it's I guess you can say like it's 80% actual like design, and you're not actually do any like you do very little math and physics in the CAD software because the CAD software takes care of most of the math and physics. You just input stuff or you're making a shape or something, and it's taking care of the math and physics. So it's not like you're sitting there integrating or taking derivatives. So you definitely don't do that. But obviously, using math is so important, I guess, for mechanical engineering, is because like when you do a little more advanced CAD, and let's say you're doing like thermal analysis or sort of fluid simulations, that's where sort of math can get a little bit involved. It's still not like excessive math or anything like that, but like these simulations, you need to understand the equations and things like that, and the numbers that are being shown to you. So that's a little bit of like the math aspect, but that's like very advanced CAD. And something we should also know about like CAD and mechanical engineering, it's not just sort of like, you design something and you just send it out and it's going to get built. You got to design with like manufacturing in mind. So how would I design this so that it can actually be manufactured? So for example, making a part that's like very complicated, has weird shapes, it's not going to be possible to manufacture. So, when you get into the mechanical engineering world and you're actually working, you're not just CADing for fun, but you're also CADing to make sure that the thing you're building can be manufactured and then be put together once it's built out.
Yeah, that actually makes a lot of sense when you talk about it in that kind of way.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so I guess it's like finding a balance between like what's like cool and like what you want was what's actually possible to manufacture, I guess. So I guess there's like a
Yeah,
lot of back and forth
exactly.
talk between you and the manufacturer, I guess,
Mm-hmm.
when it comes to that
Mm-hmm.
stuff.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. You're always in constant communication with the manufacturers and vendors, the people who actually bring you the parts that you're going to start building around and stuff like that.
So I guess like you kind of have like some sort of social slash leadership aspect as an engineer, I guess. Would I be correct in saying
Ye-
that?
Yeah. So you definitely, yeah, it's important to have like a social to be like, it's not a very, like, it's not like obviously compared to like maybe a teacher or a doctor, I think they're not as social as that. Like with engineering, you can choose to be extremely social, or you can choose to be extremely quiet. You have that flexibility. So if you're like an introvert and don't want to be talking to too many people, you can really be like that and limit conversations to like essential meetings. Or like I'm a person, extrovert person, I love talking to people, so like I try to work in teams as much as I can and always be like talking to others. So it really can go both ways depending on what you prefer.
All right. So that makes a lot of sense actually. And also on the aspect of like CAD and all that, what's some cool stuff you've actually made with CAD or like just in general over your past 4 years as a university student, like as in like projects and stuff like that?
Hmm. Let me think about that. I'll talk about, I guess, a recent project that I'm currently working on. So this is my final year in mechanical engineering. At Waterloo, you work on your final year design project. And so I'll talk about the design project I'm working on, and then I'll mention sort of the CADs that I'm doing with that, like me and my team. And so right now, the project that we're working on is a device that will be able to track. So once you urinate, the urine that goes in the toilet can be used, and it can give you information about your health. If it can tell you if you have any future diseases or things like that, or if you have any early signs of a disease. And so, but that information just gets flushed away. So the thing we're working on is working on a device that'll be able to collect that urine, analyze it before it flushes it down, and tell you if you have like if you're hydrated or not, and tell you if you have early signs of like a urinary tract infection or diabetes. So that's the thing that we're working on. And so, but the device that's gonna collect the urine and move it into the area we're gonna analyze it, and then bring it back to the toilet. That's the mechanical aspect. And so, I CADed like the device is gonna collect it, and I also worked on CADing the place that's gonna analyze the urine. And then there's also like taking into account the tubes is gonna connect all the system together. So that's like some of the for me, like it might not be as glamorous, but I feel like it's something that has like a potential to make a positive impact on so many people. So that's something that I'm pretty proud that I'm CADing and working on designing right now.
That's actually such a cool idea. Like the amount of information that's actually in your urine, I guess, is like even while you're going to get a blood test, they also ask for a urine sample. So you being able to collect that data yourself and analyze it yourself is pretty
Mm-hmm.
cool. Also,
Hmm.
you mentioned like a software and like electrical, and I'm assuming somewhat of a biomedical aspect in that. So would you also be working on those parts as well, or are you doing it with like a team of people?
Yeah, so I am doing with a team of people, but the entire team is all mechanical engineering students. So we do so even though our main focus is in mechanical engineering, and that's what we learned in class. We did do a lot of self learning on our own to figure out how to do the electrical part and how to do the software part. And so the project isn't very software oriented, but there is a little bit of software in it, and there is a little bit of electrical. I say it's like 65% mechanical, and then the remaining is like electrical and software. And so like most things, most products do involve a bit of everything. And so we did learn on our own, some of the electrical and software parts, although we're not as expert as someone who's in electrical or software engineering, but we still like, take inspiration from them and try to learn as much as we can to get this project, done and ready to go. So yeah, I mean, it's important to learn on your own as well. Like school's not gonna teach you everything. But yeah, that would be what I'd say.
Yeah, that's fair enough. A lot of like learning, I guess, is a lot of self-learning. So also
Mm-hmm.
just like how many of your like mechanical skills were actually transferable into like the electrical or even like the software side? Was there any sort of like correlation, or was it kind of like segmented in a sense?
Yeah, so there is a correlation because so I'll give you an example from one of like slightly more advanced courses. So in mechanical, we focus a lot on like learning about fluid mechanics and how fluids move and stuff. And so how we think about sort of fluid, like more complex fluid systems, is similar to how you think about like basic circuits. And so even though like most of what we learned was in like sort of fluid systems, how you can control how fluid moves and how fast and the pressure of fluid, you can sort of it's analogous to like a circuit where like the pressure of the fluids is analogous to the voltage, and like the current is analogous to like how much the volume of the fluid. And so there's a lot of like connections. And so knowing like how that fluid's like a circuit, because like in the complex fluids we consider it as a circuit. So knowing how that circuit works and comparing it to like a regular circuit with like resistance and current and voltage, it's very similar. So you can sort of extrapolate, and it makes it quite easy to sort of learn the other thing. That makes sense. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you sort of, I guess, knowing like one engineering makes it a little easier than someone who didn't know engineering at all to like learn the other aspects of engineering, is what I would say.
Okay. So I guess when in engineering you need to work with like a bunch of different systems, and because of that you kind of need to like be able to like connect all these different systems together in a sense, I guess.
Exactly. Yeah.
And also speaking of systems and things with systems, cars, like electric vehicles and stuff like that, those have a lot of systems. And I've heard you're a part of the Formula Electric team. So
hmm Yeah.
so before we begin, I kind of want to know myself: are you a Formula One fan by any chance?
Yeah, of course. I'm not. I haven't been like following it for a while, but yeah, I wouldn't say I'm a big fan, but yeah, I'm a fan of it.
Okay, that's nice to know. Anyway, so actually getting in onto the topic itself. So basically, what do you do in Formula Electric exactly? Like for our listeners who don't know what it is, could you like give us a brief like rundown or description of what it is?
So in general, like Waterloo Formula Electric is just a team that sort of goes on competition, and they create an electric car, and then they have that electric car compete against other universities. That's like a very general rundown of what they do. I guess specifically like what I sort of worked on with them is very uh, solely mechanical engineering. I focus on like sort of mechanical design of a battery box. So that's like the sort of the battery enclosure. So that's where the sort of battery would go. That's what I focused on with like the wireless from my electric. It was very like niche and very specific. So I didn't really. So that was like something I especially worked on like in my earlier years in engineering, because just to get that a little bit of experience that I could put on my resume to help me get my first internship. But then so that was I only worked there. I was only like part of that team for the first 2 years. And after that, I just focused on school and focused more on personal projects. But yeah, it gave me that little bit of like you know uh, spot to get that ball rolling for working in the engineering world.
Also, before you actually joined the team, did you know anything about like cars or like anything of that nature at all, or did you just kind of like jump in and learn as you went along?
Yeah, I didn't know much. I just jumped in. Like the basic, like I knew, like I could tell the difference between like a BMW M3 and like an M5 or an M4, but that's about it. But like what actually goes inside the car, like I have no idea. So yeah,
All right.
they were like, I don't know how it is right now during like COVID and online school, But I mean, like I started in 2016, and like everything was in person, so I was easily able to like talk to the upper years and ask them questions and learn from them, and they were more than happy to help. So I don't know exactly how it's working right now. I'm sure there's like some Zoom calls that these student design teams have every once in a while, but yeah, but hopefully things will be back to normal soon.
Yeah, hopefully. Otherwise, we'd all be having this conversation in real life. That would be so
Yeah,
nice. Yeah.
yeah.
So, well, I guess still sticking to the topic of Formula, like the Formula Electric team itself. Like, could you talk us through
Hmm.
like the process of like designing a car like that, like from the like designing the like designing it through CAD, then all the way to bringing it to the like the final physical aspect of it, I guess.
Sure. So I personally didn't work on like designing the entire car. But so when I joined it didn't when I sort of joined in 2016, it didn't start from scratch. Like there was obviously models and things like that that were created before. And so essentially like I I I sort of looked at some of the issues that they had in previous years, and from one of the upper years that I was working with, he sort of gave me told me about these issues and what it was like, and sort of gave me things on what I could do to improve. And I also did some research to figure out how we can improve it. For example, like I think overheating was one of the biggest issues at the time, and so because it was overheating, it couldn't dry for as long. And so that was like one of the major issues. And so figuring out what material to use. And back then I didn't have much material science knowledge, like I guess I do now. So determining, so the general shape was already created, but now I think we had to change like the material that the battery box is made of, so it doesn't overheat and is also more cost effective. And so doing some revision on like material science, using the material science knowledge we learn in class, to pick the best material, and then maybe making such slight changes in design to sort of have like a more aerodynamic geometry was important. These were like I guess some of the two biggest things, but I didn't personally start from scratch. So from if you want me to explain sort of how I go through like a product from scratch to finish, I could talk about that from like a different project that I worked on. But for this, it wasn't like from scratch, like because there's a big team working on it, and you just take one small aspect and then you just sort of focus on that.
Like improve upon it, I guess.
Sorry.
Like I guess we would like improve upon that like one small aspect to make it better for the next time. I assume.
Exactly. Like the student design teams give you like a picture of what working as a job would be like, because like you don't work on something from start to finish entirely all on your own. You take a small aspect and you'll work on that small aspect, and then everyone's working on these small pieces and they come together at the end.
All right. Also, like this other project you mentioned, could you talk about that a bit? I guess. Like, what project was it?
Sure. So I could talk about like the final year design project because that was basically like it was just me and my friends working on it. So I'll talk about how the product development process worked for that. So we start off by sort of brainstorming some ideas, like very basic stuff, until we figure out so this is like before we even had the like we had so I'll talk about how we sort of came about with the idea. So we had this idea, and we knew we wanted to sort of analyze like some sort of biomarker, and urine was the easiest way because like it's something that leaves your body every day and you don't have to do much effort. And so sort of brainstorming how we'd collect it was where it started, right? Because we don't want to intrude with the person's daily life. Like we don't want you to pee in a cup and then like put the cup somewhere, because that's like very intrusive. We want somewhere that's not intrusive. So we started brainstorming, sort of sketching out ideas for how this thing would look like, uh, just the mechanical aspect at first. And after we did that, we sort of we sort of jumped into CAD and sort of looked at the sketches we had and started playing around with CAD, seeing what things would look like. And then we had all these separate parts and we put them together. And then we did some testing on some of these parts, and we looked at how the electronics would fit around with it, because this product, like this is not just a mechanical, it's obviously about electronics and there's going to be fluids moving through it. So we worked on that. So yeah, so went from sketching to a little bit of CAD, and then after that we sort of started 3D printing it, because 3D printing is like sort of the easiest and most convenient way for a small project to sort of be manufactured. And so we 3D printed it and we did some testing on it to sort of figure out what the issues with the design were. And then we sort of go back and sort of redesign it and learn from the mistakes that we made, and then sort of go through that cycle of redesigning and building until we come up with something that we really like and that works to what we expect it to. And then from that we sort of move on to from that we have a first working prototype, and from that we can like sort of showcase it to the world and maybe get some funding for it, things like that. So that's sort of how that project would work. That's sort of how we sort of went through the brainstorming and to sort of bring the project from a concept to like an actual prototype.
So it's like quite a lengthy project. So I'm assuming you guys would have like
Mhm.
split that up and like had a huge plan and stuff like that with that, like organized it like like in like steps and in like different steps, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. So like in school, we learn a lot about like the product development process and how you're supposed to go about it. You have like several stages, like there's something called like a conceptual stage, a preliminary stage, and things like that. And you sort of go through it step by step. And the school really helps you figure out how to like plan that stuff. So it's not just technical engineering stuff. They do help you like plan how you would work on a project at this scale.
All right, yep, fair enough. And I guess that's a lot like planning for like any sort of exam or something. Like you would like want to break it apart into steps and stuff like that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, breaking it apart. Yeah, it can be really overwhelming if you just look at something and you just do that. But yeah, so breaking it into steps is usually the way to go for almost everything.
All right, yep. And I guess now that we're kind of on the topic about like actually organizing stuff, organizing your life, perhaps
Hmm.
you ran a TikTok, right?
Yeah.
180,000 followers. That's actually huge. That's like really impressive. Congrats on that. So a lot
Thank
of
you.
what you do on you TikTok is like talk about like mindset and goal setting and stuff like that. So do you have like any advice on goal setting and planning in general? I guess.
Yeah, so I'll talk about like how I like to set goals. And so personally, like I used to set goals like for example, I wanna get into Waterloo, and that was my goal. Or I had a goal like I wanna work at Tesla, or I wanna work, like that's, let's say that's like a goal. That's like a dream. It's not really a goal because like you can't, it's hard to track, and like you can't really sort of, it's hard to track, and it's hard to make to tell that if you're making progress. And so I sort of change how I track my goals. Instead of saying like I wanna be big, I say like I wanna work out 4 times a week. And so that way I can tell if I'm making progress because I'm actually like accomplishing that. And like for TikTok, for example, like my goal wasn't to get 100K followers. My goal was to post at least one TikTok a day for the next 6 months. And so, sort of that's what I did. Like I started TikTok, like I had TikTok like for fun, like in like 2019, but I started posting like consistently like in July of 2020. And so I posted like at least one TikTok a day. And I'm like, let's just see where this goes. That's it. My goal was just post one TikTok a day. And then it grew. And you had like one viral TikTok, it sort of gave you a bunch of followers, and that's just sort of how it went. And so yeah, the way I like to define goals is just give myself something that I could consistently do, and that consistency builds a habit, and then eventually I can achieve that goal. And for school, for example, like let's say if someone interested in getting into like Waterloo engineering watching this, your goal shouldn't be to get into Waterloo engineering. Your goal should be, or your goal should not be get a 95 average of so that's like the dream. But the goal would be sort of study productively like at least 4 hours a day, or at least 5 hours a day, or whatever. And so that's the way you can easily track that you're doing it, and you can check it off every day and feel like you're progressing towards it. So that's sort of how I like to define my goals, and it sort of shifted over time, where I realized like what I it sort of shifted to like also like if you have like a dream, like if your goal is like get into Waterloo, and you don't, you'll feel really discouraged. But if your goal is supposed to like work on getting these high grades, you'll feel yourself achieving them, and you won't feel as discouraged. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
that's
that's sort of how I define goals for myself.
yeah. So like just make them in just like smaller pieces and like set specific timelines, I guess. Also, do you like
Mhm.
have any sort of like specific apps? Or do you like have any sort of like anything else that may like help you plan these goals? Like, do you have a plan, or do you keep an agenda, or is it just all like mental?
So it's not mental because I forget it, but I'm pretty like old school. I write down everything on like pencil and paper, or sometimes I use like my Apple Pencil on like iPad and I write stuff down. But yeah, I don't use any specific. Like the only app is like I use Good Notes on my iPad where I like write stuff down. But that's really the only app I use, or like Notes on my iPhone to like whenever I have like a TikTok idea, or even like an idea for a YouTube video, I just write it down on my notes, and then I look at it later. So that's really all I use, just notes or like a paper and pencil, or like Good Notes app on my iPad. Nothing like too fancy or anything like that.
Yeah, so I guess like just to be a good goal set and like sticking to a plan, you don't really need to have like 10 different apps. I guess like a pencil and paper is just fine, right? It's just all
Yeah,
a
that's
mindset thing at the end of the day.
exactly. As long as you just write it down somewhere. If you can use a fancy app if you like, or as long as it's just written down somewhere, because if it's in your head, then like you'll forget it eventually. Yeah.
Yeah. So like just tick it in a calendar, and that's I guess fine enough. That's like good enough, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So just so I just wanted to take a break and say thanks to our sponsor. So this episode was brought to you by Canada Services Corp. Services Corp gives young Canadians the chance to participate in meaningful volunteer service projects that have positive impacts in communities across Canada. You can check them out at canada.ca/service corps. Once again, thank you, Canada Service Corps, for your amazing support in Spoke After Hours. Anyway, we recently had a contest on our Instagram story for you to answer. Congratulations to Anin.g87. Make sure to follow us on Spoke Hacks on Instagram for more updates and contests. Anyways, now that we're back, so I just wanted to play a little game, and this game doesn't really have a name, but I basically want you to guess the TikTok sound which I'm playing, like the name of the sound itself. So I hope that sounds like fun.
Yeah, that's good.
So I guess we shall begin with this sound here.
I can't hear anything.
Oh, can you?
I can't hear this. I don't know the exact song, but that's like the Renegade song, I think.
That's close enough. It's Lottery. I'll give you a point for that. Yeah. Okay, next one.
Yeah. Like I know the song, but I don't know the exact name. Like I don't know. Like I've definitely heard it on TikTok a lot, and I could like probably sing it, but like I can't.
All right, so that's Super Lonely. I'm not sure who that's by, but like I didn't know the sound either. I just know of it.
Yeah, same.
Next one, I guess. Do you know?
Like I know the song. I know of the song. I can't tell you the name. But this is also kind of old. Like this is like 2019 TikTok, I think. But nah, I can't tell you the name. Like I can sing it, but I can't say the name. I don't like I hear this so often on TikTok, but I never actually like search up the name. So
yeah, fair enough. That was Walked In, and I used to be able to get this one. Hopefully. What's the difference between comp sci and software engineering? I got you. Yep. Do you want to quickly plug your TikTok account?
Yeah. My TikTok is at TamerXI. You can follow me there. Post a lot of engineering related stuff. But you can also check me out on YouTube, Tamer Shaheen. That's where like I try to give more value because I actually have longer time to talk. Or check me out on Instagram at Tamer_Shaheen_. So there's that as well.
Yep, you give like amazing advice there. And also, just before we wrap things up, I just wanted to ask you about like your workout routine, like just really general stuff. Like, do you have like any advice for someone who wants to like start working out, or like just any tips or tricks, I guess?
Yeah, so the workout like industry is really like there's a lot of information. You can sort of get overwhelmed with all the information that they give you. So just take it like step by step, take it slowly. Like personally, I do a lot of like calisthenics, which is like at home sort of body weight workouts, and so like that's like a lot of like sort of push ups, muscle ups, pull ups, things like that. And I'll if you're interested in getting working out, I'll tell you like sort of people to follow on YouTube that will literally help you, like that I learned from. So like there's two people on YouTube that really teach me a lot. One is Jeremy Ether. He teaches a lot about sort of bodybuilding and how to build muscle. So check him out. Everything he says, like, I actually trust. And the second person is more of a calisthenics person, Fitness FAQs. So these are the two people that I personally like follow on YouTube, and I learn a lot from them on how to work out either at home or in the actual gym. Hopefully, like when gyms open back up. So yeah, if you're interested in getting into sort of the gym or the workout area, there's like the two people to follow. There's a lot of like false information out there, so be careful. But there's the people that I trust and I personally follow, and I've seen like gains from them. So I like them.
Yep. Fair enough. So like so I guess we're running short on time. So I guess that basically wrap things up. But before we go, is there anything else you'd like to tell our listeners, like any sort of small tidbits of information or advice or anything?
I don't know. Have like a list of all the goals you want to achieve, and then just work towards that. And don't worry. This is something that I personally work on myself a lot. Don't stress too much about what other people think of you. When I first made TikTok, I was worried what other people will think of me, and then I've been doing it for like 6 months now, and I realized that people don't actually care. People like are busy with their own life. They don't actually care about your life or anything. So don't worry about what other people think. That's like the biggest thing that I learned in the last 6 months. Like, focus on yourself. Yeah, that would be like the last thing that I'd like to say.
Yep, that's solid advice. And before we go, could you just quickly repeat your TikTok and Instagram handles for our listeners who may want to like follow you afterwards?
Yeah, TikTok at TamerXI, Instagram at Tamer_Shaheen_. Yeah.
Well, amazing. And So that's about wraps things up. So if you enjoyed today's be sure to follow our socials if you already haven't. Our website is thoughtthespoke.ca. Our Instagram is at the Spoke Hackathon. Our Twitter is at Spoke_hackathon. Our Facebook is Spoke Hackathon. And our TikTok is at Spoke Hackathons. Anyway, see you guys all later. Stay safe and have an amazing day. And remember to check back on us for our next episode. See y'all.